We move over to the pass catchers, and no surprise, the Falcons, with Drake London and Kyle Pitts both making the love list. Clearly, Matthew, because of the additions of having a quarterback in Kirk Cousins. A big jump for these guys.
Massive jump as well. Look, Cousins had a wide receiver finish top 10 in 5 of his 6 seasons with Minnesota as well. We saw him support number 1 fantasy wide receiver production when he was in Washington as well. And so Drake London, who is good. They never had anyone that could get him the ball. They didn't have a play caller that was scheming stuff for him. But so Drake London, massive upgrade both in terms of his quarterback and the play calling. So Drake London makes the love list along with Kyle Pitts, who keeps number 8. Hopefully he still gets the targets that he was trying to negotiate for with Kirk Cousins. But look, he's had 23 career games, Kyle Pitts has. 23 career games with 6 or more targets. And he's averaging over 60 receiving yards in those 23 games. Last year, there were only 3 tight ends who averaged over 60 receiving yards per game. Travis Kelce, TJ Hawkinson, and George Kittle. Since becoming a starter, Cousins, for his career, top 5 in the NFL in terms of targets and completions to tight ends. Whether it's Hawkinson, whether it was Jordan Reed back in the day in Washington, he has always liked to throw over the middle to the tight end. I think this is a massive win for both Kyle Pitts and Drake London. I've been out on them since they've been in Atlanta. I'm in on both of them this year.
Yep. Matthew, if you could give me the power to look into the future and see the box score of one team in the NFL, their week 1 box score before fantasy drafts, like who would be the most valuable team to see that for? I think it would be Atlanta, because one, get to see like how many targets does Kyle Pitts actually get? Is this going to be a thing? And then I think probably more importantly, how many carries is Bijan Robinson getting in relation to Tyler Algier? Because there is a chance, like Kyle Pitts could be a top 3 tight end next season. Drake London could be a top 6 wide receiver. That's not out of it. And Bijan Robinson could be the number 1 player in fantasy. And I think we're going to actually know a fair bit of that just after the first game, just to see what their usage is.
There's absolutely no question. I love that they play in the Dome. Yep. The NFC South doesn't scare me as a division either as well. And so Kirk Cousins coming there and getting rid of Arthur Smith, just massive win for the entire offense. The Falcons will be a lot of fun next year.
Yeah, Arthur Smith.
Sticking with the love list here, Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram make it for the Jaguars as they lose Calvin Ridley in free agency to the Titans. Yes, Gabe Davis signs with Jacksonville, Matthew, but clearly you think there's now more targets put on the plate of both these guys.
Yeah, I mean, they're loved because of addition by subtraction. Whatever we think of Gabe Davis, we don't think he's as good as Calvin Ridley. And so, again, the focal point of that offense for Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson is going to be Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk in the middle of the field. And so both guys improve their target share in this one. Calvin Ridley moving on vacates 136 targets, which I think some will go to Gabe Davis, but not a ton. Gabe Davis has not been a guy that has, throughout his career, earned massive targets. He's had these massive games because he's got these big play Gabe, like he'll catch some 70-yard bomb, or have multiple touchdowns. But the fact is, he's never been a guy he is usually not like an 8 receptions for 85 yards kind of guy. I think a lot of those targets, those 136 targets, go to Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, who, by the way, had the second most receptions last year. Evan Ingram did, by a tight end in NFL history.
We talked about this one, Jay, when we broke down the Justin Fields trade, Russell Wilson in with the Steelers, but it feels like good news for George Pickens, especially after the Deontay Johnson trade.
There's no one else. There's no one else to throw the ball
now.
To. It's like Calvin Austin. But, I mean, they have to be the most likely team of just about everyone alongside the Chargers to draft a receiver.
Easily in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's going to be a rookie wide receiver. There's not really much competition outside of that. Just the nature of Russell Wilson's game as well. I think you can see some overlap between Cortland Sutton and George Pickens, just as the deep ball thrower that he is. Pickens' touchdown equity should go up with Russ as well, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, it's Arthur Smith. They're going to be run heavy still, but a 23.5% target share with Deontay Johnson, that is now up for grabs here. We've seen Pickens just have unbelievably, kind of crazy catches. Like the skill is off the charts, and now it's his 3rd year. So it's just, will Arthur Smith, do to George Pickens what he did to Drake London? But in fairness to Arthur Smith, he'll have better quarterback play than he had in Washington, in Atlanta. I think as much as we want to clown on Smith for his insane Bijan Robinson usage, I think the argument for why he didn't throw as much to Pitts or London is because he just didn't have anyone that could actually get them the ball, right? Whether it was Mariota or Desmond Ridder or Taylor Heineke. With Russell Wilson and or Justin Fields, he's going to have an improvement at the quarterback position. And so Pickens is not a guy that needs massive volume here, because he's such a big play threat.
I think the other thing too with Arthur Smith is that a big part of his offense in Tennessee was play action off of the attention that Henry commanded. So I think there will be like a lot of deep shots off of play action to Pickens. So that is a good fit.
Which is what Russell Wilson's really good, right? Yeah. He's last couple of years, 3 consecutive seasons now for Russell Wilson, top 3 in terms of percentage of passes thrown 20 or more air yards down the roads. I mean, like, so Russ can still chuck it deep. Yep. And so I think they will take those shots. So Pickens absolutely makes the love list, as does Deontay Johnson. So him going to Carolina, where there's not a ton of competition for targets. Yes, Adam Thielen is still there, but we're still waiting for Jonathan Mingo and Terrence Marshall to kind of do something here. Deontay Johnson should have just a massive target share, right? Think about Adam Thielen last year. Almost a 26% target share in 2023. From weeks 1 through 11, he was a top 10 fantasy quarterback, a top 10 fantasy wide receiver on a points per game basis. Adam Thielen was. And we all like Deontay Johnson a lot more than Adam Thielen at this stage of their respective careers. And so I think Bryce Young will be better under Dave Canales as well, year 2 in the league. So Deontay Johnson is somebody, again, because he is disappointed in fantasy for a couple of years relative to draft position, and because it's Carolina, I think people are going to be out on Deontay Johnson. I'm way in on him fantasy-wise because it's all be going to ugly production, but it still counts.
Yep. And also just someone who had Deontay Johnson on my fantasy team last year and needed him to go off against you in the playoffs. He was so close to like these multiple plays where it's like that was an inch away from a 60-yard touchdown. Very fluky, yes. I think that should just regress naturally. Also, the Panthers, they spent a lot of money on their offensive line, so that should be in a better spot as well.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.